Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, August the 6th. We'll focus in on Tropical Storm Debby. This morning it is located in the very eastern part of Georgia. It will actually move to a position just off the coastline later today and tonight. And there is some possibility of re-intensification, perhaps back into Category 1 hurricane status as it then backs to the north and west late tomorrow into tomorrow night. Probably makes a second landfall over the South Carolina coastline early in the day on Thursday. And again, it could re-intensify back into Category 1 hurricane status. Whether it does that intensification or not back into hurricane status, it will continue to produce some tremendous rainfall across the southeastern states. Finally, later in the week, the system gets kicked out to the north and moves into the mid-Atlantic region. It looks like it'll cause some additional rainfall, heavy potential rainfall in the mid-Atlantic region from later Thursday into perhaps early Saturday. And that's not the only impact from Debby up in the mid-Atlantic region. Later today and tonight, tropical moisture associated with Debby will combine with an incoming cold frontal system and likely result in some showers and thunderstorms late today and especially tonight in the mid-Atlantic region. And some of that rain later on tonight into early Wednesday can certainly be heavy at times. Flash flooding is on the table, especially for those areas north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, perhaps even down into northeastern Maryland as well. Again, that is kind of a forerunner event later today and especially tonight in the mid-Atlantic region. Here's the latest satellite imagery loop using the GOES East satellite, and what we're looking at is kind of a combination of two bands, an infrared band and a visible band. So it kind of gives what they call a sandwich blend of two different bands here. You can see the circulation right in this area right now. Overland, not an eye associated with this. These sustained winds, the last report about 45 miles per hour, but the feeder bands are just producing some tremendous rainfall amounts into South Carolina, into North Carolina. That will continue certainly over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. This whole area from Georgia, South Carolina, into southern North Carolina can see anywhere from 10 to 20 inches of rain from this system, maybe even isolated higher amounts during this storm system. Now the center, located right here, will kind of meander off the coast and move back out over those open waters of the southwestern Atlantic Ocean later today, into tonight, and into the day on Wednesday. And there can be some re-intensification of that center of Debby, perhaps even back into Category 1 hurricane status. Well, here's the latest official position as of 8 a.m. by NOAA's National Hurricane Center. Again, Debby came off the northwest portion of Cuba over the weekend and moved in this fashion right here, intensified from tropical depression into tropical storm, and then finally into Cat 1 hurricane status, and made landfall early Monday morning over the Big Bend region of Florida. It has since moved very slowly to this position right now as a tropical storm over eastern Georgia. Again, it looks like it'll meander off the coast over the next 12 hours or so and potentially intensify right in this area right here during the day on Wednesday, back into Category 1 hurricane status, and then make a second landfall as it kicks back to the north and west and probably moves over the central or northeastern coastline of South Carolina during the day on Thursday, and again, potentially as a Cat 1 hurricane. And whether or not it reaches hurricane status, there will be some tremendous rainfall in this part of the southeastern U.S. After that, it turns to the north and likely moves to a position by Friday night near D.C. in the Mid-Atlantic region, and more of a direct impact of heavy rain potentially for that Mid-Atlantic region from, let's say, later Thursday into early Friday. And again, that's not the only influence of Debby. There'll be some heavy rainfall tonight in portions of the Mid-Atlantic region, especially north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. And again, that's partly as a result of tropical moisture feeding to the north from Debby, combining with an incoming cold frontal system. After Friday night, it turns to the north and east and could get back out over the open waters of the northwestern Atlantic over the upcoming weekend, and maybe even strengthening again, maybe another re-intensification somewhere off the Maine coastline later in the upcoming weekend. By the way, before we leave this particular map, yes, indeed, there is another tropical wave right here. It has a chance to intensify, certainly into tropical storm status, and probably headed for the western or central part of the Gulf of Mexico, something we'll keep an eye on over the next several days. But again, right now we're focused on Tropical Storm Debby. Well, let's take a look at last night's 0Z run of the Canadian model. Again, I'm using the Canadian model. I think it has a better handle on this tropical situation as compared with, for example, the GFS. This is the total precipitation amount between now and Sunday morning. So this encompasses pretty much the life of a tropical storm Debby, and again, very heavy rainfall over the next several days up and down the Atlantic seaboard, and this is all 2 inches or more, even in the Mid-Atlantic region and in parts of the southeastern states from the Carolinas down to Georgia. There could be some excessive rainfall amounts of between 10 and 20 inches, just a feed of tropical moisture coming right now into this part of the southeastern U.S. And again, that can result in 10 to 20 inches of rain from this tropical storm system, maybe even isolated higher amounts. And again, some significant rainfall tonight in the Mid-Atlantic region, and then again later Thursday into early Saturday with the more of a direct impact by Debby late in the week. Now, I wanted to take a look here at the vorticity field from, again, the Canadian model of last night. This is where Debby is located right now this morning. Again, as a tropical storm, sustained winds, I think the latest observation about 45 miles per hour. And watch this system right here. That's a key player here. We'll move forward here. And by this evening, there's a kind of a frontal system, a cold frontal system, drop into the South Andes. It has some support in the upper part of the atmosphere. Here we go into the late night hours, and this is all it'll take to kick off some very heavy rainfall up across the Mid-Atlantic region late today, and especially tonight, and especially north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, although there can be some heavy rainfall down to northeastern Maryland, all the way down to the northeastern side of the District of Columbia. And some of this rain, I think, can be so heavy that flash flooding will indeed become a concern later on tonight, even into the early morning hours on Wednesday in portions of the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, some of that tropical moisture will play a role in the overnight hours up in the Mid-Atlantic region, even though the center of Debby is still way down the coastline here. Again, that moves just over, off the coast and over the open waters of the southwestern Atlantic later today, stays over the water tonight into the day on Wednesday. Now let's clear these lines here and move forward here into the day on Wednesday. This is Wednesday morning. Debby probably over the open waters at this particular time, and it can get some strengthening during the day on Wednesday, perhaps back to Category 1 hurricane status. We'll move forward here into the day on Thursday, probably makes a second landfall over South Carolina, maybe the central or northeastern coastline of South Carolina. If it is a hurricane, very likely a minimal hurricane, Category 1. But again, whether or not it regains strength to become a hurricane, the damage will be there in terms of the rainfall, tremendous rainfall right in this area. Again, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, 10 to 20 inches of rain, maybe even isolated higher amounts. Then with this incoming trough over the northern plains on Thursday, that'll help to kind of kick this system out finally to the north and into the mid-Atlantic region. Here we go into the day on Friday. Probably by Friday night, the whatever remains as the center of Debby, probably not too far from the D.C. area around Friday night. Now, whether or not it'll be a closed circulation or kind of an open circulation as Debby weakens over land, the remnants of the center of Debby should be somewhere near D.C., maybe give or take 50 miles to the west or east on Friday night. And then it really kicks out to the north and east with this incoming upper level trough over the Great Lakes by Saturday. After visiting the mid-Atlantic region, Debby likely moves back out over the open waters of the northwestern Atlantic. May even do some, go through some more intensification once it's back out over the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean over the upcoming weekend. And then that trough slides to the south and east, so that by the time we get to early next week, quite a cool air mass up across the northeastern states by the early part of next week. Well, let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps from the Canadian model run. And again, there's a vigorous upper level wave here associated with a surface cold frontal system over the Great Lakes as we begin the day here on Tuesday. Tropical storm Debby, far eastern part of Georgia. Now, we'll move forward here, and this can certainly produce some heavy rainfall. The combination of tropical moisture pushing to the north associated with Debby into the mid-Atlantic region tonight. At the same time, a surface cold frontal system slides to the south and east. I expect some very heavy rainfall in portions of the mid-Atlantic region. Exactly where that sets up, still a little bit unsure. I think just to the north of the Mason-Dixon line, a place like southern Pennsylvania, maybe central Pennsylvania, some very heavy rainfall. This particular model run has some very heavy rainfall up across the northern part of Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey as well. And here we go into the overnight hours. See that heavy rainfall on this particular model run all the way down to the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. And it certainly can extend to areas just to the north and east of D.C. in the overnight hours. But again, watch out for some flash flooding mid-Atlantic region. This is kind of a forerunner event of Debby. Now, we go into the latter part of the week, and here is later tomorrow. Again, that system undergoing some intensification. Let's backtrack a little bit. Here we have 999 millibar low, and then 998, 997. It does, in fact, go through some intensification here. And later tomorrow, especially tomorrow night, 996 now, it can make a second landfall over the South Carolina coast early Thursday morning. Then it starts to get kicked out to the north, and whatever remains of the center of Debby will likely be right in this vicinity by Friday night, somewhere around D.C., maybe a little bit farther to the east, closer to the Delmarva Peninsula, maybe even a little bit to the west of D.C., somewhere in this area right here by Friday night, whatever remains of the center of Debby. Now, whether it's an open center or a closed circulation center, doesn't matter. There's likely to be some heavy rainfall right in this region right here, the I-95 corridor region, on really any time from late Thursday into early Saturday, but it may be focused right at this time period right here, Friday evening, Friday night. And then by the time we get to Saturday, kind of starts to see some improvement, I believe, along the I-95 corridor region later in the day on Saturday into Saturday night. And certainly Sunday looks pretty decent, and you have this pleasant air mass dropping from the southeastern Canada into the northeastern U.S. by the time we get to Sunday night and Monday. Again, comfortable temperatures here on the early part of next week up across the northeastern states here. So still a lot to go through in terms of rainfall from Tropical Storm Debby, and it's not just down in the southeastern U.S. It looks like heavy rain threat will exist all the way up to the Mid-Atlantic region, beginning as early as tonight and continuing in the Mid-Atlantic region from later Thursday into early Saturday. And again, then that tropical system pushes up to off the New England coastline over the upcoming weekend. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.